Hello students, as we have completed chapter 4 complete explanation including the workbook part, here I am going to present you the videos related to chapter 4 which will help you in analyzing the chapter in more depth. Okay, so watch these videos very carefully and try to make out the notes out of those videos. This will contain the entire textbook and the application part, reflection of concepts part. All the questions can be answered by watching these videos which I am going to link up. Okay, so do watch them and if possible try to save them with you only. Thank you.
Hello friends, this video on metals and non-metals part 11 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Now we will see how metals react with acids. So now let us see how do metals react with acids. Here also we will see that different metals react with different acids differently. So even if you take the same acid and make it react with different metals, the reactions will be different. If you take different acids with the same metal, in that case also the reactions will be different. So basically it depends on which particular metal is reacting with which particular acid. So let us take examples of few acids for better understanding. So let us say for now, let me take a dilute acid, say dilute HCl, that is dilute hydrochloric acid. Now, normally what happens is if a metal reacts with a dilute acid, so with any dilute acid, this is a normal scenario, but doesn't mean that it will be true for all the metals and all the acids. Then it generally forms a salt and it releases hydrogen gas. So that is the general trend. However, the reactivity of various metals are different. For example, now let me give you example for some metal, the same reaction. Let us take example of magnesium. Now when magnesium reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid, this is dilute, it forms a salt, that is magnesium chloride, and hydrogen gases released. Now this reaction might not hold true for all the metals. That's because magnesium has the highest reactivity with dilute hydrochloric acid. So if you try to arrange the metals in terms of reactivity, then magnesium has the highest reactivity, then comes aluminium, then comes zinc, then comes iron, and then comes copper. In fact, if you talk about copper, copper doesn't react. There is no reaction of copper with dilute HCl. So it doesn't react with dilute HCl at all. So right now I am talking only about dilute HCl. So this series which I have written, this is true only for reaction with dilute HCl. So see, if even with the same acid, the reactivity of different metals are different. On one hand, magnesium is highly reactive with dilute HCl. On the other hand, copper doesn't react at all. So let us take examples of some other acids as well. So the next acid that we will consider is aqua regia. This is a very interesting acid. Now this is actually a combination of two acids. This is a freshly prepared mixture of concentrated hydrochloric acid and concentrated nitric acid in the ratio 3:1. So that means 3/4 of it contains concentrated hydrochloric acid and 1/4 of it contains nitric acid, that is HNO3, and hydrochloric acid is HCl. So that is aqua regia. The word aqua means watery, and aqua regia means royal water. Now, why am I talking about such a special type of acid, which is a combination of two acids? Now, you will see that how it acts. It acts really magical. It has something very interesting associated with it. So that's what we will see. Now, this acid, it is highly corrosive in nature. It can dissolve even metals like gold and platinum. That sounds interesting. So this acid can dissolve even gold and platinum, because you saw gold is one such metal which do not react with water, which do not react with air, right? So normally it doesn't react with anything much, but this particular acid can actually dissolve gold also. So now you will get to know how exactly have you ever seen that when a gold jewelry becomes very old, maybe some 40-50 years old, now you want to get it polished. So what do? You take it to the jeweler shop, give it to him, and he polishes it, and it shines like before. So from where does that shine comes? How does he do this polishing? So that is where aqua regia plays an important role. So let us see how exactly gold reacts with aqua regia. Now this is gold Au. Gold reacts with aqua regia, and aqua regia is nitric acid plus hydrochloric acid, that is HCl. So when it combines with this, it forms AuCl4, that is gold chloride, chloride of gold, plus NO2 plus H3O plus H2O. So this would be the complete reaction. Correct? So what do you see? You see earlier it was gold, but on reacting with aqua regia, gold formed gold chloride. So basically it got dissolved in the acid. Correct? Now I will show you the picture how gold can get dissolved and how you can get pure gold precipitate produced by aqua regia. So see, this is a pure gold precipitate. This is the gold which we normally see in the form of brick, in the form of jewelry, but this is the precipitate of pure gold which is produced by aqua regia. So aqua regia can actually dissolve this gold like this. Now when you give your jewelry for polishing to a shop, what they actually do is they dissolve it in aqua regia, and this aqua regia, they take down a thin upper layer of that jewelry. So because it can dissolve gold, right? So the upper layer of gold is dissolved, and therefore the below layer is displayed, and the below layer obviously has the same shine because it was not exposed. So that is how polishing of gold is done. So if you observe it more carefully, you would see that after polishing, the weight of the jewelry reduces a little bit. That's because one upper layer of gold is dissolved. So this is another important acid, and we see that how metals. In fact, platinum also reacts in a similar manner with aqua regia. So now we will see another acid, that is nitric acid. So now we are going to talk about nitric acid. Now nitric acid is a very strong oxidizing agent, that is it can oxidize anything. So while reacting with acids, what do metals actually do? We already saw the example of two acids, dilute hydrochloric acid and aqua regia. But basically what metals do is they reduce hydrogen ions to form hydrogen gas, and that is how hydrogen gas is released during the reaction. That is what they are actually doing. Correct? Now in this case, nitric acid is a very strong oxidizing agent. So what is nitric acid going to do? We will see that. So this nitric acid oxidizes the hydrogen produced to water and itself gets reduced to any of the nitrogen oxides. Now normally, under normal condition, what happens? Hydrogen gas is released. Correct? But in this case, because nitric acid is very strong oxidizing agent, it will oxidize the hydrogen gas which was produced to water, and it itself will get converted into one of these oxides, nitrous or nitric oxides. Now let us see some of the reactions with different types of nitric acid. So first start with dilute nitric acid. So dilute HNO3. So let us see how metals react with dilute nitric acid. So let us take example of some metal. For example, let us say I take magnesium. Now when magnesium reacts with dilute nitric acid, please remember this is dilute. So it forms magnesium nitrate, that is MgNO3 plus hydrogen gas. So in this case, hydrogen gas is released. Why? Because here it is dilute nitric acid. So it is not that strong oxidizer. So therefore the metal here, what did the metal do? The metal reduced the hydrogen ions. So from here it took the hydrogen ions and it formed this hydrogen gas. So that is what metals normally do when they react with acids. Now let us suppose if I keep everything same, just that instead of dilute nitric acid, if I take a nitric acid which is like moderate nitric acid, neither very dilute nor completely concentrated. So I take, say, moderate nitric acid. Now in this case, how the reaction changes? Let us try to see. So here also magnesium will react with moderate nitric acid to form magnesium nitrate, that is MgNO3 whole 2 plus NO nitrous oxide plus H2O. So if you want to balance the equation, you can do it like this. So in this case what happens? You see, earlier hydrogen gas was released, but now that hydrogen gas is oxidized to form water, and what happened to the nitric acid? The nitric acid got reduced to nitrogen oxide, that is NO. So that is the difference now, because now the concentration has increased a bit when compared to situation 1. Therefore, in this case, instead of hydrogen, we have water that is released, and we also have nitrogen oxide which is being formed. Now in the third scenario, let's say I take completely concentrated nitric acid. So what will happen in this case? So this case, the nitric acid is going to be a really strong oxidizer. So it is going to form magnesium nitrate, will remain as it is, but now instead of nitrous oxide, we are going to have nitrogen dioxide, that is NO2 plus H2O. So this is how the reaction would be. So in this case, you have NO2. So you see, as the concentration of nitric acid increases, the oxidizing effect of nitric acid also increases. So this is how magnesium reacts with nitric acid. Now, this doesn't mean that every other metal will react with nitric acid in a similar way. For example, there are certain metals which do not react with dilute nitric acid. For example, so let me give you the examples. Let us say magnesium, manganese, all these, they do not react with dilute nitric acid. So if you mix them with dilute nitric acid, they will react. So these will react, but there are certain metals which do not react with dilute nitric acid. So let us take some other examples. Some metals which react only with concentrated nitric acid, and one such example is copper. So copper reacts only with concentrated nitric acid because concentrated nitric acid is a better oxidizing agent. Now copper reacts with HNO3, and what does it form? It forms copper ions plus NO2, that is nitrogen dioxide, plus H2O. So this is how. So the reaction is little similar to that of this reaction, correct? But copper doesn't react with dilute nitric acid. It prefers to react with concentrated nitric acid. So there are some metals which react with dilute nitric acid, but they do not react even with but they also react with concentrated nitric acid. However, there are certain metals which do not react even with concentrated nitric acid, and such examples are zinc, aluminium. So if you ask zinc, aluminium to react with concentrated nitric acid, they do not react. So basically what I am trying to say is different metals have different reactivities towards nitric acid. Okay, so you take examples of magnesium and manganese. These two reacts with dilute nitric acid. They also react with moderate nitric acid. They also react with concentrated nitric acid. You take example of copper. It reacts only with concentrated nitric acid. You take examples of zinc and aluminium. They do not react even with concentrated nitric acid. So it depends how metals will react with a particular acid. But whenever a metal reacts with an acid, the motto of the metal is to reduce the hydrogen ions to release hydrogen gas. So that's how it happens normally. So now let us see what happens to non-metals, how do they react with acids. Now again you see that non-metals generally do not react with acids. Please make a note of this point, that they generally do not react, because there are certain non-metals which do react with acids under certain special conditions. But in general, metals react with acids to release hydrogen gas, but non-metals do not react. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on metals and non-metals part 12 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So now let us talk about the reaction with bases. How do metals react with bases? Now, how do you identify bases? Now, we have been talking about acid bases. We have talked about litmus test. Now, how do you know which is a base? Now, litmus test is always there, but some basic or some very literal characteristics of a base. They are generally bitter in taste. They have a soapy touch. Examples of bases. Can you think of some examples of bases? Let me give you some examples, like sodium hydroxide, it is a base. Calcium hydroxide is again a base. Soda, sodium carbonate, that is also a base. So these are all examples of bases. So now we will see how metals react with bases. Now metals react with bases to produce hydrogen gas. So here also you see, with acids also metals have a tendency to produce hydrogen gas. But if the acid is a very strong oxidizing agent, then instead of hydrogen gas they produce water. So in this case, how do they react with bases? So let us try to see that. So metals react with base to form a salt plus hydrogen gas. Let us take some examples. Let us take the example of zinc. Now zinc combines with a base, for example NaOH, sodium hydroxide. So what does it form? It forms Na2ZnO3, which is sodium zincate. So this is nothing but a salt plus hydrogen gas is released. This is important, because with the emission of hydrogen gas you get to know that okay, a metal has reacted with the base. Similarly, if you take example of some other metal, for example you think of aluminium. So when aluminium reacts with sodium hydroxide in presence of water, what does it form? It forms sodium aluminate plus hydrogen gas. So you can just balance the reaction. So what is this? What is the salt? This is nothing but sodium aluminate. So here also if you see, hydrogen gas is released. So all metals will react with bases and they will release hydrogen gas. Now what about non-metals? Now, do you think that in this case also non-metals do not react with bases, or they react in different ways? Yes, the second option is correct. So non-metals react with bases but little differently. Now it is not the non-metal which directly react with bases, but the oxides of non-metals react with bases to form salts and water. So let us see, what does that mean? So let us see how these oxides of non-metals react with bases. Now what happens is, the non-metal oxide, something like carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide, so this oxide reacts with a base to form salt, and along with that it releases water. So let us take some example. Let us take the non-metal oxide, the common one, say carbon dioxide. Now when carbon dioxide combines with sodium hydroxide, which is a base, it forms Na2CO3, which is a salt, that is sodium carbonate plus water. Again, if you take example of some other base, for example calcium hydroxide, in that case what does it form? It forms calcium carbonate, which is a salt, plus water. So this is how non-metal oxides react with bases. So basically metals react with bases to release hydrogen, and non-metal oxides react with bases to release water. So that is the difference between metals and non-metals in terms of their reaction with bases. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on metals and non-metals part 14 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So with this we have reached towards the end of this lesson. Let us quickly have a look at some of the questions. Question number 1. Which of the following can be beaten into thin sheets? Now what is that property which says that an object can be beaten into thin sheets? That property is called malleability. And metals are malleable. So let us see the options. Now in this option, zinc is a metal, so metal is malleable. Phosphorus non-metal, not malleable. Sulfur non-malleable. Oxygen non-malleable. So the correct option is zinc. So let's look at question number 2. Which of the following statements is correct? All metals are ductile. All non-metals are ductile. Generally metals are ductile. Some non-metals are ductile. So ductility is the property by which objects can be drawn into thin wires. Now non-metals can never be ductile. So option B and D are absolutely incorrect. Now we cannot say that all metals are ductile because there are exceptions to everything. So therefore the right option would be generally metals are ductile. Question number 3. Fill in the blanks. Phosphorus is a very dash non-metal. So phosphorus is extremely reactive. So it reacts very fast with oxygen, and that is why it is stored inside water, because it doesn't react with water. Metals are dash conductors of heat and dash. Metals are of course good conductors. That is why utensils are made up of metals. They are also good conductors of electricity. Iron is dash reactive than copper. So iron is more reactive than copper. That is why iron is able to replace copper from copper sulfate solution and form iron sulfate. Metals react with acids to produce dash gas. Which gas? It produces hydrogen gas. Question number 4. Mark T if the statement is true and F if it is false. Generally, non-metals react with acids. Now, non-metals do not react with acids. Sodium is a very reactive metal. Yes, it is. Because you saw that sodium is so reactive to oxygen as well as water that it can catch fire very easily. That is why it is stored inside kerosene oil. Copper displaces zinc from zinc sulfate solution. This is false because zinc is more reactive than copper. Therefore, zinc can replace copper, but copper cannot replace zinc. Coal can be drawn into wires. Absolutely incorrect, because coal is a non-metal, and if you start beating coal, it will break into pieces, but it will never be drawn into wires. So this is false. Question number 5. Some properties are listed in the following table. Distinguish between metals and non-metals on the basis of these properties. So the first property is appearance. So let us say this side we will write metals and this side we will write non-metals, and we will say for each of these properties how do they differ. So appearance wise, metals have luster, so they have shiny surface. Non-metals do not have luster, so they do not have any luster. Next property is hardness. Mostly metals are hard, whereas non-metals are soft. However, there are exceptions to both of these. Like in metals also we have soft metals like sodium. Malleability. Metals are malleable, that is, they can be beaten into thin sheets like aluminium, silver, gold, etc. Non-metals are non-malleable. They just break off. They are brittle. They can be broken down easily. Ductility, again, metals are ductile, but non-metals are non-ductile. They cannot be drawn into thin wires. Heat conduction, metals are good conductors of heat, but non-metals are poor conductors of heat. Conduction of electricity, again, metals are good conductors of electricity, but non-metals are poor conductors of electricity. Question number 6. Give reasons for the following. Aluminium foils are used to wrap food items. Now there are two reasons. One is because aluminium do not react with food. Aluminium doesn't react with food, because if aluminium starts reacting with food, maybe it will turn the food into something else. It might turn it into poison. So aluminium doesn't react, so it is safe to keep food wrapped in aluminium foils. Secondly, why do we have aluminium foil? Because aluminium is malleable, that is, it can be beaten into thin sheets, and that is why we are able to make aluminium foils out of it. Immersion rods for heating liquids are made up of metallic substance, because what do immersion rods do? They are used for heating water primarily. So it will be able to heat water only when it is able to conduct the heat, right? Because these metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. So that is why they are used in immersion rods. Copper cannot displace zinc from its salt solution. So if you put copper in zinc sulfate solution, copper cannot replace. So if you mix copper with zinc sulfate, what happens? There is no reaction, because copper is less reactive than zinc. So copper is less reactive than zinc. And we know that only a more reactive metal can displace a less reactive metal. Sodium and potassium are stored in kerosene, because sodium and potassium, both of them are extremely reactive in presence of oxygen and water. So therefore, if you keep them exposed to oxygen or water, they will immediately catch fire. So that is why, to prevent fire, they are stored in kerosene, because sodium and potassium are highly reactive to oxygen and water. So we try to keep it away from air and water. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on metals and non-metals part 15 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Question number 7. Can you store lemon pickle in an aluminium utensil? Not really, because what is lemon pickle? Now lemon pickle will contain acid. In fact, lemon contains citric acid. Now this acid will react with aluminium. We know that acid reacts with aluminium to release hydrogen gas. So now this hydrogen gas that is getting released might spoil the pickle. Therefore, it is not advisable to store lemon pickle in an aluminium utensil. Question number 8. Match items in column 1 with column 2. So here you have the various items. So let us see which matches which one. Gold. Gold is used for making jewelry. So gold will match with D. Iron. Iron is used for machinery. Yes, because iron is rough and tough, quite solid and hard. So it is used for making machinery. Aluminium for wrapping food, because it doesn't react with food, and also it is malleable, so it can be beaten into thin sheets. Carbon. Carbon is used as a fuel. So coal is an excellent fuel, and coal is made up of carbon. Copper. Copper are used in electric wires. They are good conductors of electricity. Mercury. Mercury is the only metal which is liquid and it is present in thermometers. Question number 9. What happens when dilute sulfuric acid is poured on a copper plate? So let us see. What do we do? Dilute sulfuric acid on a copper plate. So copper has to react with dilute sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is H2SO4. Now in this case what will happen? So you see it is basically copper reacting with a salt solution of this one, hydrogen, or you can say sulfuric acid. Copper is a metal is reacting with acid. Now whenever a metal reacts with acid, what happens? This is a metal, this is an acid. What happens? Hydrogen gas is released and a salt is formed. So what is that salt here? That is CuSO4. So copper sulfate will be formed and hydrogen gas will be released. Iron nails are placed in copper sulfate solution. So in that case, this is iron. Iron has to react with copper sulfate. So this copper sulfate, which is blue in color, it is an aqueous solution. Now since iron is more reactive than copper, so iron will replace copper and it will form iron sulfate solution plus copper. And this iron sulfate is kind of reddish in color, and as a result what will happen is the blue color of the copper sulfate solution will start fading due to the formation of iron sulfate. So we have already written the word equations for the same. Question number 10. Saloni took a piece of burning charcoal and collected the gas evolved in a test tube. So what did she do? Charcoal contains what? It contains nothing but carbon. So she burnt carbon. That means carbon reacted with oxygen. So what will form? It will form carbon dioxide. So she has collected this carbon dioxide in a test tube. How will she find the nature of the gas? Now she wants to know whether this gas is acidic in nature or this gas is basic in nature. So how will she do it? You remember the litmus test? Yes. So for the litmus test, what do you need? You need a solution. How do you prepare the solution? You mix this carbon dioxide gas with water. So it forms H2CO3. Now in this solution you put the litmus and what do you find? You find that the blue litmus turns red. And what does that prove? That proves that this is an acid. And which acid is this? This is nothing but carbonic acid. So this proves that it is acidic in nature. So this is how she will find out. Write down the word equations of all the reactions taking place in the process. So I think we have already done that. Question number 11. One day Rita went to a jeweller's shop with her mother. Her mother gave old gold jewelry to the goldsmith to polish. Next day when they bought the jewelry back, they found that there was a slight loss in weight. Can you suggest a reason for the loss in weight? Now as I told you before also, how do we polish gold? So in order to polish gold, basically what we need to do is we need to just dissolve a very thin layer of gold. Now once the topmost layer is gone, the below layer is definitely going to be shiny, and that's how the gold gets polished. So what do we use for that? For that purpose we use the acid aqua regia, which is a combination of which is a mixture of concentrated nitric acid and concentrated hydrochloric acid. So when gold is dipped in this acid, one layer is gone. Now that means we are actually losing some amount of gold. So therefore when you weigh it again, there is a slight loss in weight. So upper layer of gold dissolves, it goes away, and therefore the weight is reduced. So and that is why it is not advisable to get your jewelries polished over and again unless and until it is really not necessary, because every time you are giving it for a polish, you are actually losing some amount of gold, and gold is quite expensive metal. So we really do not want to lose so much of gold. So that's why only when it becomes too old, it should be given for polish. So with this we have reached towards the end of this lesson, and I hope that this lesson on metals and non-metals would have helped you. So see you all in the next lesson. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again. Hello friends, this video on metals and non-metals part 13 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. So now that we are talking about reactivity of various metals, we are going to talk about displacement reactions. Now, these reactions give better evidence about the reactivity of metals, because so far we saw that some metals vigorously react with water, some metals do not react at all with water, some metal reacts with oxygen, some doesn't react at all. So there is a lot of variation in the reactivity of metals to different substances. Now, these reactions give us a better idea to decide which metal is more reactive than the other metal. So it helps us to tell the reactivity of various metals comparative or relative to each other. So basically we can say, let us suppose you are given two metals, copper and iron. So how do you know whether copper is more reactive than iron or iron is more reactive than copper? So it is difficult to answer such questions because copper might react well with water, iron might not react with water, but again on the other hand iron might react with air, copper might not react with air. So these kind of discrepancies might be there. So such reactions, so when we talk about displacement reactions, these reactions occur when a metal is put in an aqueous solution and that aqueous solution is a compound of another metal. Okay, let me give you an example. Let us suppose you have a beaker. Inside this beaker, you have copper sulfate solution. It is an aqueous solution. So inside the beaker, let us say, you have copper sulfate solution and you have put an iron nail inside this solution. So basically you want to see the reaction between iron and copper sulfate solution. So what you are doing, metal, which is the metal here, iron is a metal and iron is put in an aqueous solution. And what is the aqueous solution? It is a compound of another metal. What is that another metal? That is copper. So basically if you want to see out of iron and copper who is more reactive, you can put one metal into a solution of another metal. So here we have put iron in a solution of copper sulfate. Now how this will help you to tell which metal is more reactive, we will see that a little later. Now it has been observed that in this kind of situation, for example, when an iron nail is put into a copper sulfate solution, over a period of time it was seen that the color of the solution changes. Normally copper sulfate solution is blue in color, but over a period of time the blue color fades away. So why that happens? Due to the reaction of iron with copper sulfate solution. So over a period of time a new thing is formed that is called iron sulfate, and due to the formation of iron sulfate the blue color fades away. That means iron reacts with copper sulfate solution. Due to that reaction only you are seeing change in color. Again, if you take some other example, let us say again you have taken a beaker with copper sulfate solution. Now instead of iron, now you have put zinc. So you have just put a small piece of zinc or a small granule of zinc in copper sulfate solution. Now in this case also you see that after some time the color changes. So the color of zinc is like white. So here also you see that the blue color fades. Why it fades? Because reaction happens and formation of zinc sulfate happens. Due to the formation of zinc sulfate, the color of copper sulfate solution fades. Now another example can be taken where instead of copper sulfate solution, you take zinc sulfate solution. So here you have taken zinc sulfate solution, and in zinc sulfate solution you have taken a small piece of copper. So it is just the opposite of second scenario. So if this is second scenario and this is third scenario, second and third are just the opposite thing. Here zinc was the metal, solution was of copper. Here solution is of zinc and the metal is copper. In this case it is seen that there is no change in color. Why there is no change in color? That means no reaction is taking place. That is why there is no change in color. If some reaction will take place, that means some new compound will be formed, so there will be some change in color. But here there is no reaction taking place. Now that is surprising. Now when the here reaction took place, then why there is no reaction taking place here? So that became a question, and that is what is answered by the concept of displacement reaction. So the concept is very simple. It says that a more reactive metal will always displace a less reactive metal. More reactive is more powerful. So more powerful person always replaces the less powerful person. So similar thing here. So now you can take the same example again. So this was your beaker number 2 and this was your beaker number 3. So in this beaker, this was your copper sulfate, and in this beaker it was your zinc sulfate. In this beaker it was your zinc, and in this beaker this was your copper. Now in this case what happened? The color changed. So in this beaker color changed, and is this beaker no color change. Correct? So that means what is happening in this beaker? In this beaker reaction is taking place. That is why there is change in color. So what reaction is taking place? Let us try to see. So here the reaction that was taking place was zinc was combining with copper sulfate to form zinc sulfate plus copper. Now the color of copper sulfate was blue. That is why earlier the solution was blue in color. But the color of zinc sulfate is actually colorless. So that due to the formation of zinc sulfate, gradually the blue color of the solution starts to fade. So that means in this case, what is happening? If you look at the reaction very carefully, zinc is actually replacing copper from copper sulfate solution. So zinc is actually replaced copper and taken the place of copper to form zinc sulfate. That means zinc is more reactive than copper. So as per the concept which I told you, that more reactive will displace the less reactive. So here more reactive should be zinc because zinc has displaced copper. So this shows that zinc is more reactive than copper. Now in this scenario, what happens? Here copper is reacting with zinc sulfate. Now as I told you, the solution will change color only if copper is able to displace zinc. Now what did we see? We see that zinc is more reactive. That means copper is less reactive than zinc, and a less reactive metal will not be able to displace a more reactive metal. Therefore copper will not be able to displace zinc. So if you look at this experiment, this clearly tells you that zinc has more reactivity than copper. So the relative reactivity between zinc and copper can be easily determined with the help of a displacement reaction. Right? So this is the concept of displacement reaction. It actually tells you which metal is more reactive than the other metal. So the simple concept of displacement reaction is that you have a metal A, you have a metal B. So when you combine metal A with salt solution of metal B, then what do you get? You get salt solution of metal A and metal B. When do you get this? Only if metal A is more reactive than metal B. This will hold true only in that case. If metal A is less reactive than metal B, then there will be no reaction at all. So let us look at an example for this. So what will happen if iron combines with copper sulfate solution? So here iron is metal A and copper is metal B. So in this case, since iron is more reactive than copper, therefore iron will be able to displace copper to form iron sulfate plus copper. So this shows that iron is more reactive than copper. So this is how displacement reactions work. So based on whatever we have discussed so far on physical and chemical properties of metals and non-metals, we can quickly have a comparison between metals and non-metals. So metals are lustrous, non-metals no luster. There is no shine on non-metals. The only exception is iodine. Metals are sonorous, they produce ringing sound. Non-metals, no ringing sound. Metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. Non-metals are poor conductors. So like you can see the conducting wires, they are all metals. Metals are malleable, ductile, but non-metals are not. So non-metals generally, if you try to beat them, they break into pieces. Metals have high density, non-metals have low density. Metal oxides are basic. So the oxides of metal, for example, magnesium oxide or iron oxide, they are all basic in nature. But non-metals, their oxides are acidic, like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide. They all combine with water to form sulfurous acid, carbonic acid, etc. Metals react with water, they react with acids. Non-metals do not react with any of them. Metals react with bases to release hydrogen, but non-metals directly do not react with bases, but their oxides react with bases to release water. So these are some of the distinction between metals and non-metals properties. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.